I'm going with my man Jaxson Smith and Njigba.
Oh,
I've seen him in action.
What's up, guys? Swift here covering everything Chicago Bears. Justin Fields said something that really got me thinking about this year's NFL draft. Fields did an interview on the Barstool Network, even got an apology from Jersey Jerry. He spoke about a lot of interesting topics, including what teams he thought were going to draft him in 2021 and who he would draft if he was the GM of the Chicago Bears this season. Fields wasted zero time bringing up former teammate Jaxson Smith and Njigba. I've spoke about JSN multiple times in the past. He was the leading receiver on Ohio State in 2021, outproducing Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, and Marvin Harrison Jr. JSN is also good friends and a former teammate of Justin Fields, and he comes with some built-in chemistry right off the bat. On top of that, there's the status of JSN's draft stock. He entered the year with most scouts ranking him as wide receiver 1 and potentially a top 10 pick in the upcoming draft. He missed virtually the entire 2022 season with lingering hamstring issues and chose to shut his season down early in preparation for the upcoming NFL draft. Now, most pundits have him all over the board, going anywhere from top 15 to falling into the second round. I talked last week a little bit about a scenario I really liked, getting a mega deal in a trade that includes multiple first-round picks and moving down outside of the top 10 this year. It would give us a stockpile of draft selections this year and in the future and allow us to snag Jaxson Smith and Njigba in the first round. A receiving core of Chase Claypool, Darnell Mooney, JSN, and Velus Jones Jr. has a ton of upside, and if you add any veteran to the mix, it's a very respectable receiving group that is full of young, exciting playmakers with different skill sets. Mooney kills man coverage and has legit deep speed. Claypool is your big physical X receiver who can also take the top off the defense with 4.4 speed. And then JSN would be our perfect slot receiver who could be a reliable third down option for our quarterback and help this offense evolve. I think that would be an awesome outcome, but I also think it's not the only way we could end up with JSN. It all comes down to his draft stock. If he tears up the NFL Combine, I think more than a few GMs will love his 2021 tape enough to take him inside the top 20. To me, he's a top 15 pick. However, there are these rumors of his stock falling, and if true, and JSN somehow falls towards the back half of the first round, it's also possible that we move back up into the first and take JSN with our second pick. That would be even more ideal. The ability to trade back, snag a top pass rushing prospect, and then add JSN with our second pick. It all comes down to trading the number 1 pick, though, and acquiring as many additional assets as possible. The more picks we get, the more likely it becomes that Poles could use one of those picks to move back up in the draft for someone he really likes, like a JSN. I've always been intrigued by the possibility of adding this guy. We've all seen what quarterback wide receiver chemistry can do in the NFL with guys like Joe Burrow to Jamar Chase, Tua to Jalen Waddle, and even Jalen Hurts to Devontae Smith. Chemistry takes time to build with receivers and quarterbacks, so adding a receiver that Fields already has chemistry with would be huge in my opinion. The biggest problem right now is we have no idea where he gets drafted. I doubt he goes in the top 10, so in order to land JSN, I think there are 2 scenarios that fit. One is we trade back outside of the top 10 and get a bunch of picks, take JSN with our first pick, and then the second option is we trade back, stay inside the top 10, maybe even go back to number 4 with the Colts. Poles then takes the highest player on his board, and then with our second round pick they got from the Colts or whoever we trade down with, we package that with another pick or 2 and move up into the late first round to take JSN. That scenario depends entirely on him falling in the draft, though. Anyone could take him before that. Most mocks have him going between pick 11 and pick 25. It's a rare opportunity here because JSN is probably the last shot we ever have at taking a receiver that Fields already has chemistry with. The other two were Olave and Garrett Wilson. They're already on teams in the NFL. I really like JSN's game. I think he's a great slot receiver, but people underestimate slot receivers in the NFL a little bit. I've watched a lot of tape on him, and I've begun his scouting report. It'll be out sometime this month. I think he's a perfect fit and would love to see him in a Bears uniform. The fact that it would make Justin Fields really happy is just the icing on top. Justin Fields is our franchise quarterback. He's not getting traded. The entire goal of the front office is to surround this dude with enough talent that he can compete in this league and win a lot of games. I've said the receiver's not our biggest need this year, and I still believe that. But it does not mean that taking a receiver in the first round, especially if it's JSN, would be a bad idea. I believe this is a unique opportunity we find ourselves in, one where we can fill a ton of holes via free agency, but the second is having that number one pick and a QB already gives Ryan Poles unlimited flexibility. If we moved down and took JSN, we could still add a lot of extra picks to fill other holes. I like a lot of players in this draft, but this idea of pairing up Justin Fields and JSN together really excites me. This is something I'll be keeping an eye on all offseason, especially at the Combine, because his performance there could definitely affect his draft stock. And then lastly, I just wanted to talk for a minute about another thing that Justin Fields talked about during that interview is where he expected to go in the NFL draft. He said that his agent had already informed him that the 49ers were going with Trey Lance, so he's not going there. He thought he was probably going to go to his hometown Atlanta Falcons. They passed on him. The next two teams he thought would draft him were the Broncos and Panthers, who also both passed on him. And at that point, Fields had fell outside of the top 10 and had no idea where he was going to end up going. It was at that moment that Ryan Pace and company swooped up, drafted Justin Fields, and he added on top of that, there's no place he'd rather be. He's a Chicago Bear for life. You love to see it. Stay tuned, guys. I have so much more coming. Remember to hit that like button for me. And until next time, bear down.
I'm going with my man Jaxson Smith and Njigba. You know, I've seen him in action. I've seen how he can separate himself like that, and you know, his just body control is crazy. And you know, he didn't get to play this past year. He didn't get to show what he could do. So, you know, I'm hoping he falls to us somehow. But I don't know. But we do have, you know, some help that we need in the trenches. So, you know, a lot of people are talking about us taking Jalen Carter or Will Anderson Jr. So we'll see what happens. So I'm guessing we'll get one of those guys, and you know, maybe some guys in free agency. But you know, one guy that I would love to have is Jaxson Smith and Njigba.
Yeah, I like that.